Welcome to a rather early edition of the TD Podcast. I am here. Amy is here. And look who that is, the great Drew Lane. Hello, Drew.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing, pal?
Good.
Good. Well, I've had a bit of a rough morning, I'll be honest.
Mike is frazzled.
I am frazzled. Yeah, it's easy to throw me off. This is the hardest part of this gig, Drew, and you'll understand this. Like if I lost some shit at the Drew and Mike show and it just, whatever, it didn't matter. Like Drew and Mike got it covered. They're doing the heavy lifting, so it doesn't matter. So I've been watching like documentaries the last couple nights about this Karen Reed case in Massachusetts.
It's a lot to digest.
What's that?
That's a lot to digest. There's so much.
Oh, I had no idea, dude. I've been so out of the loop with this. It's been going on for months, and I had no idea. Like the first trial ended in a mistrial. Like there's a lot. So I'm doing what you've always done, and you're just taking notes feverishly. Well, I get ready to come in here today. I've got a couple pages of notes and a couple stories printed of other stuff. My main sheet of all my details, notes, like specifics, like this happened at 2:21 a.m. is gone. It's just gone.
Right. So you feel naked.
Oh my God. I feel naked. Yes. I'm in the dream right now in front of the audience and I don't have pants on. And that's how I feel. And I'm just like, oh, you got to be shitting me. So I have like one page with a couple scribbled notes and it's like, God damn it.
Back to you. I think you'll be surprised sometimes when I sort of lose things like that or come in without a lot of time to get ready. I find that your memory does just click in without the notes. I don't like without them, but it does.
I've noticed that too, but it's still like it's like getting halfway up the roller coaster and realizing, oh, I forgot to hook my seatbelt up, and it's kind of that feeling. Like,
no, I think it's not how I like to operate, but it's actually I think it's good to do that once in a while because then you think on your feet a little bit better, and you realize that you probably don't need as many notes. I have way too many notes.
Yeah, you do, and so do I. And one of the things I've noticed that I can do if I'm in a story and I have too many notes and I'm trying to refer to it and hold it. Yeah, you can't find exactly where you want to go, and you're trying to hold the conversation and read something else, and my brain just doesn't work that well like that.
That's what's good about not having notes. Maybe who knows? You might find.
Yeah, you just be like me. Like I didn't even 12:50. I'm like, all right, it's time to go.
Here we go.
I was in meetings earlier.
How many hours have you put into the Karen Reed trial, Amy?
Drew, I know this case better than my own life. I know more about Karen Reed than I know about me.
Yeah, you don't need notes.
I do not need notes. I could talk to anybody at any time about all of the details. I'm so fascinated by it. I love true crime, just like anyway. And this case just caught my attention. And then once you see all the bullshit that is happening, you're like, this is insane. Like, this is so crazy that all of this is happening. And you can't help but think this is a cover-up of some sort. It, to me, is the most normal explanation for all of this.
It's a wild.
And it's crazy.
My problem with the case is, as I look at it, I want to know what happened. And I'm not ruling anything out, but I feel like if Karen Reed did not hit him with her car, I cannot believe 12 people can keep a secret like that and not one of them has a fit of conscience. I mean, that will happen eventually as somebody will crack and say something.
Well, Drew, I think so on February 3rd, and he died on at the end of January. So, and she got arraigned beginning of February. On February 3rd, a guy went to her defense attorney and was basically like, something happened in that house and he got his ass beat. And there had not been any reports at that point about his injuries or that sort of thing. And so it kind of made them go, yeah, that sort of makes sense. That guy has a daughter that is friends with many of the people that were in the house. And so it's kind of like, I think somebody did spill at the very beginning. And I think he had sort of a conscience to be like, hey, FYI, something happened in that house.
But are 12 people or 11 people, 10 people, 9 people, are they willing to risk going to jail to save whoever did this? Because if you watch, what's the guy's name? Turtle Boy.
Turtle Boy.
Yeah. Having watched some of his stuff, he seems to be fingering the 18-year-old, the guy that has the fuck you and all the Facebook pictures, the high school.
Yeah.
That's what Mike thinks.
That's what I kind of think.
Why would all these people, why would they risk themselves for this kid? It doesn't, I don't think it makes any sense.
I do think that the context of who that family is important. Like that whole Albert family in that town, they're kind of like very well known. Brian Albert, who was in the house, he was on the Boston Finest television show. They all work for the police. They're just a powerful family. And I've actually thought in my mind that not everybody in the house saw what happened. I've thought that. Like, I think that some people were downstairs and some people were upstairs. And the people upstairs they just didn't, honestly, they don't know. So I think the conspiracy is less people than you think. Well, and unfortunately, like, we'll never know what happened in that house because the way they investigated it was such bullshit.
Wouldn't you know how a body was dragged out of the house, though? And would you leave a body in a snowbank in front of the house you killed him in? I mean, that's...
Well, but if you took him somewhere else, aren't you automatically fingered as the suspect because he was supposed to be in that house and now he's dumped somewhere else? They would come to you and be like, what the hell? What happened? Whereas here you could be like, I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. Must have gotten hit by somebody. But I think it's so weird that like Drew, if you had a party tonight and you invited some cops over and one of them was found dead on your lawn, the cops would come into your house. They'd be like, hey, Drew, knock, knock, knock. Why is the dude that you invited dead on your lawn? Can we come in and chat about it?
Oh, I think there's plenty of mistakes, and the text messages. Oh, she's a whack job, and she's a flat ass, and all these things. But referring to those, by the way, I would not, if I were involved in a cover up, and people on both ends are supposedly involved, the police that were not there and the people that were at the party, I would not be sending these flip texts to people. But that's beside the point. I still can't imagine why would every single one of those people and anyone they told to, nobody is going to flip on this ever? That's just so hard to believe.
It almost sounds like sorry, Drew. It almost sounds like mafioso in nature, like the way the family operates, like having each other's back. Just in some of the context I've seen of them in court and some of the texts and just kind of the way they're behaving. And so it's not out of the realm of possibility that if you had a mafiosa family like Sopranos style in New York, there's no fucking way they're turning on a cousin, a brother. Like, and if you put in, like, I'm with you, Drew. I find that incredibly hard to believe. And my guess is somewhere down the road, someone's going to have a guilty conscience eat at them. It either ends in suicide, you see, or someone comes out and says something about what happened. But I just feel like they didn't, the police that weren't there, the police that investigated it had absolutely no interest in finding out what happened. I mean, they determined it was her from immediately, had no interest in investigating anybody else. And then, they all of a sudden, when they're looking at phone extractions, they don't see that all of Jennifer McCabe's calls that she made to John that night, supposedly as he's dying on the lawn 50 feet from where she's at, and she's calling him. She deletes those calls, and then she says they were butt dials. She has 4,000 Google searches on her phone. One is deleted, and it's how long to die in the cold at 2:27 in the morning.
I agree. I think that's the most interesting thing out of anything is her Googling that at 2:30 in the morning. But Karen Reed said, I hit him. I think I hit him. I might have hit him. I mean, she drives right to the house and sees him lying right out there. She doesn't walk up to the front door. And the conspiracy part, like Turtle Boy says, the other people in the car with Karen, they didn't see him because they knew he was there and they weren't looking for him. And it's like, there's just a lot of projection of what people are thinking and why they're doing things as opposed to, evidence itself is certainly more helpful. There's not enough to be sure of anything right now, but I'm just clinging to the fact that somebody in the house, if he was murdered in the house, there's no way someone is not going to turn. It could be, there's kids or younger people involved. They have parents. You mean tell me these people don't tell anyone? Of course they do. They have to tell people.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
on a
Tell
cave
each other.
or for
Is
parents
there
or someone.
have we learned what supposedly was there like an established fight that happened between Karen and John that night? I know I've read stuff or seen stuff that says like, oh, she basically was like, listen, I'm not interested in going to a party at 12:15 for beer pong with a bunch
Mhm.
of 40, 50-year-old people. Like, give me
And
a
oh, by
break.
the way, the dude that she was texting on the side was there. So probably didn't want to be in that situation with the
But
dude that she was just texting and her boyfriend.
we've all had a fight with a girlfriend, boyfriend. We've all been like, oh, fuck you too. I'm out of here and
Mhm.
leave. Doesn't mean you run over someone to death. Like we could all be guilty of being on a text string somewhere going, I swear to God, I could kill that bitch. Like,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean you run them over. Like, is there
Yeah.
something where it's like, oh, this fight happened when they were drinking at a bar at 11:30, it spun
No.
out and she was like, is there anything
No.
that would establish like,
Well,
To
she
the
had some-
contrary, everyone that testified at the trial said that they were fighting earlier in the day, but everyone said that at the bar, they were fine. They were perfectly happy, and I don't know. That's kind of what the tape shows too.
Didn't she have a nasty voicemail or two to him though?
Yeah, she did when he didn't come home.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that means that much. It could just mean that she thinks she's out drinking all night. Who knows what it means?
I mean, I was telling Mike a story yesterday about my husband many years ago when I was working for the Tigers. He went down to opening day. I was supposed to drive him home. We had a meeting spot set up. I waited for him for hours, couldn't find him. His phone was dead. So I just drove home. And I mean, all the hours are ticking by. It's like midnight, no word from him. And I'm like, well, he's obviously dead. He's obviously dead in Detroit. I'm calling my mom. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm panicking. I'm calling hospitals. I'm calling police stations. I'm like, does anybody know where my husband is or my boyfriend? And he comes home like 2 hours later. But I'm thinking, okay, what if he ended up dead somewhere?
Well,
and then
I want to know where he was.
He was just,
Yeah.
They were just like, oh, well, I guess we're going to stay down here and party and then we'll just take a cab home later when
Some reason he couldn't text you.
his phone was dead. And so, yeah, it was a whole big thing. But I'm like, God forbid, if he ends up dead.
You never
And
friend.
then
yeah, no one around him had a phone.
Voicemails. I was leaving him angry voicemails, like I fucking hate you, being totally crazy.
But see, in a trial with I hate you on the voicemail and him being dead, they would 100% grilled you over that. 100%. How much did you hate him?
Couldn't she have accidentally hit him? I mean, isn't that possible?
It is possible. Yes, it is possible, Drew. But I think when you're talking in terms of a trial and reasonable doubt, and in Massachusetts where you add on and to a moral certainty, I would never convict her of anything ever because I just don't think that the evidence is there. There's way too much reasonable doubt. It is possible, but the fact that they never investigated anything else and you have all these weird things that have happened, it's just too much for me to overcome. And add on top of it, the feds were involved, which is also a crazy thing to all of this because the feds, by all accounts, are investigating the district attorney. So they're not investigating like the murder of John O'Keefe. They're investigating the district attorney and corruption within his office. And that involves multiple cases like Karen Reed and also Sandra Birchmore. Drew, have you heard of Sandra Birchmore?
I have, and I can't remember why.
Same set of characters, same cops, same police station and everything. She ends up dead. They find her body. She's dead. And they label it a suicide. She's hanging by the closet with like a belt around her neck. And the same cop who looked at Jen McCabe's phone and didn't see any of the deleted stuff in the Karen Reed case, he gets Sandra Birchmore's phone and is like, yeah, nope, nothing to see here. Come to find out, there were a ton of deleted text messages by the cop that she was having an affair with, who had been grooming her since she was on like the, whatever the little cops are, since she was like 12 or 13. He's been having an affair with this chick, knocked her up. His wife is also pregnant, and he went over and he killed her. And the same cops who responded to the Karen Reed case responded to that, and it was immediately labeled a suicide. Nothing to see here. It appears to be a cover up by the
Has he been
police,
charged?
other cops. So the feds charged him because they were looking into something else and discovered all of this. So the feds have charged him. He was never charged locally by.
Well, I mean, I'm glad the feds charge him. At least there's that. If the feds are investigating, I think that's a good thing. I mean, one thing doesn't mean another means another. It certainly lends suspicion, and there's lots of suspicion on the prosecution side. And I know they've been sanctioned many times. I was interested, though, in last week when they took a 1 week timeout so the defense can explain exactly what's going on with this bill that the action reconstruction people got for $23,000. That's pretty weird.
So I watched, of course, the whole hearing yesterday. It was very boring, but I watched all of it.
Oh, that's right. It was yesterday.
It was yesterday. Yeah. And so the ARCA experts are the crash reconstructionists. They were hired by the feds.
Right.
So Karen Reed's defense did not go out and seek them to come to a particular conclusion. It was like a month before.
I don't have to say this if you don't want me to. And oh, by the way, here's a bill for $23,000.
So that the time, I'm not going to get all into the weeds. The timeline is important of when he said that. And the thing he said, I don't have to say that, he did end up saying. The bill came after the trial was over. It was paid after the trial, but ARCA was like, yes, somebody's paying me, but nobody knew if it was going to be the feds or if it was going to be Karen Reed's defense team. They got paid for preparing for trial and then their expenses. They didn't get paid.
That's very odd to me.
What is?
Construction people who are independent. No, we've never even talked to them. And then the defense paid them because, well, I don't know. Why shouldn't we pay them?
Who was going to pay them for their time to testify?
Well, if I were the defense, I wouldn't pay them just because it looks like you own the testimony.
But everybody brings in experts the prosecution is going to bring in an expert that they're paying. So each side brings in an expert, and most of the time.
It's supposed to be disclosed in Massachusetts, not in California, but it is supposed to be in Massachusetts. And I don't understand this whole thing about how when it came up and Jackson was not the attorney that was asking the questions. It was, what's his other attorney's name? Yannetti. He was asking the questions and the judge said, so you mean to tell me you've never talked to this witness? It's totally independent. Oh yeah, it's absolutely independent. And
no, that's not what he said though. Like what he said matters. What he said was outside of scheduling and getting their background, we haven't had substantive conversations. And in those emails where he says, hey, here's a retainer, Jackson saying, hey, here's a retainer, the ARCA expert responds and says, thanks, we have to pause these conversations because I have to talk to the federal government to see how we're going to move forward. So when the trial started, they still did not know at that point if the feds were going to allow them to testify. The night before they testified was when the ARCA expert sent an outline to Jackson and said, here are some questions you can ask me tomorrow. So
but he seems to be very friendly in saying, I don't have to say this, if this doesn't sound good or you don't want me to say this, that's not what I would say.
But he did say it.
Well, it sounds bad. I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. But also you can't ignore science and when you said a couple minutes ago, could she have hit him? And I said, it's possible. It's actually not. I take that back because these experts who, regardless of if they were paid for their time, when they made these conclusions, when they were hired by the feds, they had not met anybody on that team. And they were like, here's the evidence. The Fed said, here's the evidence. Tell us what happened. Tell us if his injuries were caused by a car. And they weren't. Science, it defies logic.
I've seen a lot of reconstructions, and I mean, from the guiltiest people in the world to the most innocent people in the world, I don't know that that's science. I think there's a little room for.
What do you think of those injuries, Drew? When you see him with the scratches on his arm and the bruises on the back of his hand, the black eyes, that looks to me, and like I say, this is hard because I haven't paid as much attention as you guys have in the weeds, which is kind of important in a story like this. But just at first glance, those pictures, you go, oh yeah, that guy got his ass beat. That doesn't look consistent with a simple hit and run at 26 miles an hour or whatever.
Well, I don't know. Honestly, the stuff on his arm is
weird.
Are those dog bites?
Yeah, it looks like dog bites.
The Commonwealth series, that's from Shattered Tail Light. So that's their theory. So it's two things. It's either shattered tail light or the defense is saying it's dog bites.
Those are strange looking, because we looked at them yesterday. You didn't think they were dog bites, did you, Brandon?
I couldn't tell. They were deep, though.
They look like scratches more than bites.
Or knives. Right. It looked like. But
I mean, you see them in like
the tail light to me is like, I don't know how you. So the theory is that someone took the broken tail pipe piece or the tail light pieces and put them at the scene and said, "Oh, here it is, voila." I mean, that's clearly what they did, according to the defense, right?
Well, I think according to the defense, what I believe is, listening to the ARCA experts, I mean, one of them literally built a cannon to see how hard they would have had to throw a cocktail glass at a tail light to get it to shatter into those many pieces. I think because everybody, John had this cocktail glass and they found a piece of it next to him, apparently. I think when he got out and she drove away, I think he threw the glass at her tail light, and I think it shattered. And I think that's probably how those pieces got there. That's my.
What the defense says? What does the defense say?
That came out during the first trial, and so I don't know. Maybe their theory is going to change, but also like the defense doesn't have to prove anything. So I mean, they just have to.
No, I'm not interested in the legal part of it. I'm interested in who did it. That's my maybe.
I don't think we're ever going to know.
I mean, you the weeds about all these little things, but if the tailpipe pieces or the taillight pieces are there and he's lying there dead, it seems like he was probably hit by that vehicle.
But he's not laying there dead. He's laying 12 feet away dead. And so the physics of what they're saying happened, how he was out like this and he spun around and he was launched. That's the theory. And hit his head on the hard ground.
But my question is, so how did the tailpipe pieces got there by him throwing a glass at the taillight? Is that what the theory is?
That's what that's the experts that the feds hired. That was how they could explain what happened to that taillight, because his injuries could not have caused that taillight damage. He has no injuries from the neck down. None.
I thought they were saying that when she backed out her car, there was a slow motion and it looked like she may have hit the car next to it. They were implying that she hit the car in the driveway, and that's where
I think she did do that. But Drew, this also kind of
someone has to take those pieces and move them to the other place.
Well, no, that would have they're saying that cracked it. That didn't shatter it. That it was cracked when it was taken to the police station or Trooper Proctor. And, whether you want to believe it's possible or not, he lied about what time he picked up the car. He lied. He had it for an hour and a half before he ever said he had it. So, I mean, you don't have to believe that necessarily. I just don't think that his injuries are crazy.
It's a really bizarre case, and it's you could talk for hours and hours and hours. And I don't really want to argue with people about it all. I just want to know what the fuck happened.
I know.
Did that 18-year-old? I mean, I've seen those Facebook. He's an asshole.
Yeah,
he is
for sure.
But if he punched him and ended up killing him, would all those other people cover up for that asshole punk? I don't get it. Why would they do that? That's just stupid. I think that when the fight happened and he fell and he hit his head, I think that they all just panicked. And I don't think everybody was there. I think there's probably people in that house that didn't even realize he came in and went right straight down to the basement. So that's kind of what I think. I think, he put his arm up, the dog scratched at him. I think he fell. I think he hit his head, and I think that they panicked. Hey, Mark, you didn't think those were dog bites on that guy's arm, did you?
No.
What do you think they were?
Tail light scratches.
That makes sense.
I would say when I looked at those injuries, the eyes, like, to me, and I could be wrong, I'm certainly no expert in any of this, but if a car were to back up at 23, 26 miles an hour and plow into someone, you would think there would be blunt force trauma, like, oh, that's where it shattered his elbow, and then he fell down and slid 10 feet on the wet cement, and he's got scratches on the side of him, or he rolled and stuff. But when you look at the types of injuries, almost looks like someone that was thrown off a hill and tumbled and has, like, someone that was in a fight. The bruises on the back of his hands, his eyes, it looks like he got the shit kicked out of him.
His brother said it looked like he went 12 rounds with Mike Tyson before he knew.
Which doesn't look like a simple hit and run. I mean, I suppose it could be, but that looks like something more consistent with being thrown out of a car at 100 miles an hour and just rolling like crazy and breaking a bunch of bones. Like
But he
that
didn't
seems
have
more,
any broken bones.
which just seems weird.
Well,
It just
people,
seems weird.
people who buy cars can look pretty fucking bad. I mean, not an expert on that either. I mean, that's what's hard about it is all these things require such expertise. And when you get people paying these experts for hopefully what, your line of thinking is or whatever you need your line of thinking to be, I just think it gets so distorted. And
But that's what all experts do, though, right? I mean, they're all paid to give an opinion.
they're all paid. And I think a lot of times they're full of shit. They're paid to view things the way the defense does, or they're paid to view things the way the prosecution does. So, I mean, the back of my mind is like, God, what a mess the judicial system is. I'm watching these people cheering, fans of Karen Reed's like, wait, you're a fan of her because she didn't hit someone with her car? I don't understand.
No, I think it's that is more so. I think people genuinely feel like she's being railroaded. There is so much shady stuff that has happened in that town that goes beyond
family members of the guy that died.
Well, the family members have done some pretty shitty things to some people that are in that crowd. And so I'm not saying it's right, but I think that there's more going on in that town than we all could know. It's a shitty situation all around. I'm shocked that they're retrying her. I really am.
I don't know. I don't believe if they had even an inkling that members of their staff and were involved in covering up and killing someone in that house, I don't for a minute believe they would retry him. If the prosecution, if Hank Brennan believed that, I don't believe he would retry her. Not for a minute.
I mean, nobody in their office would retry it, Drew. That's why they had to hire Hank Brennan.
Well, I don't think Hank Brennan would. I don't think anyone would retry it if they really believed that was even a 40% chance of the truth.
Nobody that works there would.
Well, nobody in the prosecutor's office wanted to retry the case.
Correct. And they didn't want the same dude that did it before.
I mean, I wouldn't want to retry the case. You're going to get, you're going to be public enemy number one.
Well, and it's not a good case. I mean,
so who's retrying it? Who's bringing the case then? Is that federal prosecutor?
Whitey Bulger's attorney. They hired him as a special prosecutor. So they're paying him like $150,000 to try this one case.
Nothing. I mean, the defense is so much more. They've got many more guns than the prosecution does. I mean, Alan Jackson is a fantastic attorney.
Well, I think I've listened to some juror interviews, and it was actually kind of scary because it was like, we didn't really believe much of anything anyone was saying, but she was sitting there, and so she must, there must be something. And it's just kind of scary because it's like, well, no, the cops have all the power because they can put you there in that seat and you're left defending yourself. I mean, she can have all the attorneys in the world. They have all the resources, I mean, Karen's attorneys are working for free at this point.
Do you guys think it's go ahead, Drew. I'm sorry.
They're great attorney. I mean, he's a great attorney.
Yeah, great. They all are.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey out of that thing in Massachusetts, which was, another, I know, Kevin Spacey declares, "Oh, I'm not guilty." But why would this 18-year-old say that Kevin Spacey stuck his hand down his pants? I mean, this would be so cool to accuse Kevin Spacey of trying to touch my dick. I believe that Kevin Spacey did do that. But when his mother deletes photographs from his phone because she's embarrassed and he's embarrassed of other photos, all of a sudden the case just gets thrown out. And it's like, hey, I won again. But
that's the judicial system, though. I mean,
Do you guys think there's a major conflict? Like, it seems if you have a dead cop on a cop's lawn, that screams like you got to bring in outside people to investigate this. And
that's why they brought in the Massachusetts State Police. The Canton Police were immediately conflicted off because the homeowner's brother works for the Canton Police.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think they should move the trial. They should just move it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Get rid of all this.
They seem to not want to do that these days. We've seen that in a handful of these high-profile cases, and it's like, this is better for everybody to get it out of here. It's too much emotion.
I think by
New York.
By the second. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead, Amy.
I was just going to say, by the second trial, I don't think Trooper Proctor will be a trooper anymore. I mean, he's been suspended this whole time, and I think he's had a few disciplinary hearings. I think he has another one in March. I bet by the time this trial rolls around, he's probably out of there for his conduct.
He's like the Mark Furman of the case.
He totally. Yeah, that's a great comparison.
He is.
By the way, speaking of which, and obviously we're not going to get to the end of this right now, and I can't wait to watch more on it and follow it. But you bring up Mark Furman, Drew. Did you like the latest Netflix OJ documentary?
Oh, yeah, I did. Surprisingly, I was. Some of it was just like, oh, I haven't seen this in so long.
Yeah,
And then some of it was new, like the lady that he saw him speeding away, and he looked at her like, "What are you doing, bitch?" You know, when he was stopped at the stop sign or whatever. And she sold the story to the Globe or something for $5,000. They went, "Oh, no, you can't use her."
Why does that rule that out? Like everybody, they've said that for years. Like, well, she talked to Entertainment Tonight or the Globe, and that's that. It's like, well, that doesn't make her story any less true. Who gives a shit?
Well, they would have just shit on her. I mean, Johnny Cochran and company would have just made all these insane. They would have found little tiny things about her that would make her suspicious, including that she wanted $5,000 and she's willing to lie for it. You know, that case is so bad.
So bad.
I don't think that would not be as big of a deal today. Like they'd be confronted by that and be like, yeah, I sold a story. Hello, it's a big deal. It's a big story. And I think it just kind of goes to your credibility, you know, but like at the time. I
don't even know how it does. Like, okay, so it comes out in trial that you were full of shit and you lied about that story. Okay, well, that's fine. You just dismiss that witness. But if it's like, no, exactly what I said to the Globe is what I saw. And they bought the story. What's the problem? Next question.
Yeah, it was a great story. I think they were smart to buy it from me.
Yeah. In fact, I got ripped off. I should have sold it for $100,000. Like, that was my big mistake.
I don't know why. It's kind of funny that she sold the story, though. It's like a woman from Brentwood made $5,000 from the Globe. It's kind of funny. It's like, I wonder why she did that. But nonetheless, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It's absurd. There were other people who sold their stories too that they just eliminated. I think the prosecution thought, we have DNA from the murder site all the way to his bedroom.
Yeah.
There's a trail of DNA following him. He's so guilty. He left one glove there and he took one glove home. How, why do we need this lady?
Yeah. Yeah.
They shouldn't have.
I found myself, first off, I thought that documentary was really good because when it comes to 9/11 documentaries and OJ documentaries, I cannot watch enough of them. Every time they're on, I watch them. And this one, as a, 3-part, 4-part, I was shocked at how many of the like A-list, if you will, members in that world went on camera, even, Furman. And I found myself infuriated all over again watching that. There's never been someone more obviously guilty of this.
I know.
It's never existed.
They let so much evidence that they never entered the trial, like all the bloody mess and the Band-Aids he had with his first hit and the knife box.
Yeah.
And the Bruno Mollies, which, by the way, 6 months after the trial, NBC goes, oh, here's a picture with OJ wearing the fucking murder shoes.
Yeah.
Why didn't they find that sooner?
Yeah.
Yeah, why wasn't the first thing you did after he was charged with this, run to your OJ footage and be like, what do we got here?
Yeah.
The Bruno Mollies, there were like 9 pairs bought in California in that size, and Nicole bought one of them. How fucking, it's so obvious, but the defense was so good, they just made everything go away.
It's crazy.
And I think it goes a lot to show, like, the time of it all, after the riots and all of that in LA. It's kind of like we were talking the other day, Mike, with like, Daniel Holtzclaw and when he was convicted and, the timing of all of that stuff and what's going on in the world, it really kind of goes to juries' minds. And I remember interviews with the OJ jurors who were like, yeah, this is payback for Rodney King. Yeah.
I think people like Drew and you and me, like all of us, it matters so much. You really, my whole life anyways, you really sort of needed to believe and count on the justice system being blind. Like those outside things, like whatever's going on in the country or whatever doesn't matter at the end of the day. And it's so clear that those jurors in OJ's case were like, this is for all the black men and historically in LA who have been fucked over. And you're like, okay, it's kind of like Chauvin in George Floyd, like for all the people who were abused by a policeman, that guy's going to prison for the rest of his life. And you're like, okay, that's not at all how the system's supposed to work. Like, it's just not.
And the idea that OJ would be the retribution for what happened to Rodney King and OJ Simpson, who's like the whitest black guy ever, who got everyone loved and kissed his ass nonstop, and he beat his wife numerous times and nobody did shit about it.
Yeah. They had to put African photos in his house when they did the juror tour.
It was all fake.
if there's like definite, like people like to throw around, oh, you're hanging out with Whitey, you're an Uncle Tom. They throw those accusations at people all the time. Like if there's a definition of an Uncle Tom, it's fucking OJ Simpson. Like that guy disowned the black community. He wanted to be in Brentwood he didn't consider himself a black man. He was OJ. I'm just OJ.
And I don't know, how does that make anyone feel better about Rodney King to let OJ Simpson, who had everything? I mean, he was basically born with the talent to be a multi-millionaire. He didn't have to do a thing. Yeah. And for some reason, making him free of murdering two people that makes me feel better. I'll never understand that. I know people feel that way, but I will never understand that.
No, I won't either. I guess if you put it in the context of these people that have seen, a black male family member get railroaded for something. He wasn't even there, and they just, the black guy did it. You could see those guys going, yeah, fuck that system. You know what? Good. We won one. But it's so infuriating to look at that evidence, especially looking back at the Nicole stuff, where what you just mentioned, Drew, that woman was terrified of that fucking grown-ass man who had no problem storming over to her house, smacking her, tuning her up a little bit when, jealous as could be, couldn't imagine anybody wouldn't want to be with the juice. And
be my two leaving.
Yeah. He's peeping Tom in through the window as she's, with was it Greg?
Blowing Greg. Yeah, when I was blowing Keith with the kids in the house. Like he gives a fuck about the kids. He killed their mother.
In front of the kids were sleeping
while they were home.
Yeah. It's remarkable to me. Was that the first time we've heard, and it might not be, but it's the first time I can recall where his agent, Mike or whatever, who sat down, who now thinks he's guilty, made that statement about what is it? Mike Gilbert. Yeah.
I think, yeah.
What was the statement he made at the end of that documentary about, he was like, OJ, did you do it?
Oh, and OJ said she shouldn't have come out with a knife or something.
If she didn't answer the door, she'd still be alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I mean, I don't remember that coming out in anything, but it's like, how does Mike Gilbert, like some of those guys, they knew. They fucking knew. And the lawyers didn't care.
They completely knew. Yeah, I just thought about also, what about the guy that saw him put the bag in the garbage at LA airport? Yeah. I never heard it before.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you've heard that. That was in. That. And you know what's sad about it too, Drew? If you remember going back, I was very, very early in my working with you. It was like 95 that trial was going on. I think I started the very end of September 95. And so it was the heat of that stuff. All the good reporting, say what you want, was coming out of the Globe and the National Enquirer.
It was.
All the good. Yeah.
They were killing it because they just weren't that, maybe I think where there's smoke, there's fire is the way they look at it, as opposed to we got to have that nailed down by 9 sources. I mean, they would report stuff that was maybe a little iffy, but it wasn't very iffy. Most of it turned out to be completely true.
Well, they were paying witnesses $5,000 for their story, so they had stories.
We get a few losers, but they had some they had some fantastic reporting.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Really,
you find every now and then you find that somebody who's not expected to do good reporting, like the New York Post and the Hunter Biden laptop or something that. It's like people go, "Oh, it's a tabloid." So what? They got a good story,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, and they didn't put blinders on when they were reporting it, and then you still are willing to dismiss it when it's proved 100% correct. But what's her name that did the laptop from hell book, the New York Post writer? I mean, she's been exonerated 1,000%. Everything she said, point to the bullshit part of that story. Miranda Devine or whatever, I can't remember her name, but yeah, it's unbelievable.
I need to read that book. I've read so much about the laptop, and I have that book. And is it worth reading the book?
I haven't read the book. I've read a lot about the book. I don't know why I haven't read that. I feel like I already know.
I do too.
Like we knew right away. It didn't take a whole lot of investigative skills to know within 2 days that, oh yeah, this laptop is 100% real.
Well, they're calling people who had emails that were in the laptop and saying, "Did you get this email?" And they go, "Yes, I did. And I sent this one, and that's on the laptop too." It's like, well, that's pretty good verification, if you ask me. But they didn't want to hear what's his name, Tony
Bobulinski.
Yeah, nobody wanted that to be true. So 51 people saying something, and they make it go away, and that's insane. Which reminds me. I'm sure you probably were going to talk about this. Did you see Jake Tapper has a book about the of Biden's cognitive decline?
Don't get me started, Drew. Don't get me fucking started. I
want to read it. I mean, I'm glad somebody's writing a book. I'm just like, Jake Tapper is writing this book? Wow.
Yeah. Original Sin, it's called.
Yeah, Biden's cognitive decline, its cover up, and his disastrous choice to run again. It might be a really good book, honestly. I mean, of course, all you see on Twitter are people going, well, this is the guy who protected him. And they've got video of him arguing with people who are saying that Biden is, out of it. Yeah. He was defending him furiously. But
Drew, you've been in the media long enough. You've been covering the people that cover these stories your whole career. Have you ever historically in your time seen this? Like, this should be career ending. The fact that you put people on your TV show nightly, people that disagreed with that side were not welcome on your show. And people that had that argument, like, no, he's sharp as a tack. He's running circles around us back here. The nerve of you. I'm glad the book's coming out too. That's great. But that should be career ending for a journalist, if you will.
I know, except that it's so many journalists. I mean, you would wipe out half of journalism if you took out every journalist who said Joe Biden was, or this is a deep fake, or that's bullshit, or whatever. Yeah. It was weird. Sometimes it felt like, wait, are these people, are they journalists or are they defense attorneys? Because they seem like they're paid by Joe Biden to be his defense attorney between the laptop. And not only that, Joe Biden was never asked about the laptop. In 4 years, no one ever, did you ever see him asked about it? Once.
The one time, and he leaned on exactly what the 51 intelligence officers said.
In the debate with Trump?
Yeah.
That was before he was elected. But I mean, after he was elected, not one time did someone say, hey, Joe, by the way. I mean, and granted, he was calling on people whose names were in front of him and he knew the questions and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's just incredible to me. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's so weird. I just thought it was, I'm more
negligent.
Tapper is writing a book because it's like somebody ought to write a fucking book. I'd rather Jake Tapper did than no one. I don't know how. It's just everything is so fucked up. I mean, Trump just changed everything.
Yeah,
I mean, but it's just like it was the worst thing ever that could possibly happen in the world, and I must do anything I can to make it go away.
But this goes so much deeper because, like, people have tried to point this out. And they were dismissed as kooks and Miranda Devine. That book should have been a bestseller nationwide. Why is it that, Jake Tapper, the implication is, Jake Tapper loves Joe Biden. So if he's saying it must be true.
Exactly. He's on his side and he's admitting it. So that's big news. And yeah, it kind of is, because that's a lot of times how we judge information. Like if a Republican says, oh my God, DOGE is terrible, this is awful, then that's going to be huge news as opposed to any Democrat saying it. It could be George Santos could be the Republican saying it. People go, wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it's just, I can't believe we're at that time. Do you remember a time years ago that would be, that this sort of thing played out? And I'm trying to think of stories in my lifetime. Like I wasn't alive for JFK, but I don't remember something so divided. 9/11 brought people together. OJ sort of did, but you could still get the reporting out there. It was weird. Like, this goes so much deeper too. It's like if someone wrote the book that Jake Tapper's putting out, Penguin Press wouldn't touch it. Random House wouldn't touch it. If some conservative tried to lay out the details, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it would have been buried. It would have been on go to Trump24.com to buy the book.
Yeah, it does sound like in the publishing world, if you accept and pay someone to write the wrong book, it's a problem. It's a problem for the publisher, which is crazy.
Crazy.
And so I don't know. Is Jake Tapper, is that another reason why maybe this is facilitated, because he is a guy who is associated with the left and he's writing the book? I don't know. Maybe that greases the skids more, but I didn't realize when did Miranda Devine write a book?
Miranda wrote The Laptop from Hell.
Oh, The Laptop from Hell. Okay.
Yeah.
I meant she wrote a book on Biden's decline. Yeah.
No.
I mean, that thing goes so deep. Like Catherine Herridge is reporting at CBS, and nobody at CBS seems to know that she's verified the laptop in 2020. And, who was it that interviewed Trump before the election? Leslie Stahl. She laughs at Trump when he brings up the laptop.
It's not true, Mr. President. Mr. President, it's not true. But I'll tell you what effect that had. I watched 60 Minutes every Sunday for 30 fucking years.
Me too.
I didn't watch it again after Leslie Stahl went, but Mr. President, it's just not true. It's like, that's your job. He's making a claim, and it's your job to investigate it. You're the news organization.
And Catherine Herridge had already verified it to the news director and to executives at CBS. That's how high it went. And they just went, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
What that tells me that Jake Tapper is the one that is coming out with that book is that's who Biden wanted to come out with. I don't think this book gets written without somebody from Biden's camp giving it the blessing. Like, yeah, this is how you're going to tell the story of what the fuck happened.
I'm curious. I mean, I wonder how deep it'll go. Is he going to? Yeah,
right.
Is he going to
go hard?
The people who are around Biden, who were facilitating this, who were making excuses for him, he's going to call out other media people, because I remember when let's see, was it in Germany when Biden wandered away from the group when they were taking a picture? And he wanted to say hi to a parachute guy or something.
Yeah.
And it was like, Jesus, Joe. And so it was just taking him so long to walk 5 steps. They all walked over to him and took the picture. You remember that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was called a deep fake. And it was like, no, it's not. He looks slow as shit. They're so annoyed that he's taking so long. They walked over to him to take the picture. It's not. We saw it. And then when Obama let him off the stage, and they're like, oh my God, Obama had to take him off the stage. And they're like, oh, no, that's perfectly normal for a former president to lead another. No, it was not normal. That was not normal. And George Clooney months later would say, oh yeah, Biden was totally out of it, in his New York Times opinion piece, which apparently ended or helped end his run for the president.
Yeah, but the gaslighting around that was done to the country is
crazy.
It's inexplainable. But I look at George Clooney and I go, no, dude, you don't get props. Like, the rest of us saw it and we're talking about it years ago. So you want me to believe that it took you till that June night on the stage, seeing that, where you went, oh wow, something's afoot. Like, bullshit. I don't believe it.
He waited until he fumbled the debate, and then he's like, well, I know he's totally out of it, so I guess I might as well come out with it because he can't win now. That's all it was, is that, oh, he did so bad in that debate, he can't possibly win, so it's time to just turn the page and just wail on him.
Yeah, and they did overnight. It changed. And
they did. George Clooney's opinion piece, and Obama he called Obama apparently, and Obama said, yeah, go ahead, write the piece. Good idea.
Yeah.
There's actually a super interesting interview on Rogan that was released today with Chase Hughes. I don't know if you know that name, but he does training for the military and their interrogators and what to do and how to get information out of people and stuff like that. And he was talking about a study where there's say 15 people in a group and all of them are in on it except there's one person that is not in on the study. And so they go into this room and they say, here's three lines, they're all different sizes, pick which line this one matches to the most, and everybody is A, B, or C. The answer in reality is C, but everybody that's involved in the study picks A. And then they get to him at the end, the guy who's not involved, and he knows the answer is C, but he says that the answer is A because that's what the group did. And it's like, it doesn't take much, for you to just go into this group think. And I think that's what you're seeing on like a large scale is like, if we just tell people that you're not seeing what you're actually seeing. He didn't really lead him off the stage. That's fine. That's normal. That eventually people will go, yeah, you're right.
Well, I was thinking about, I had a really weird thought today. I was thinking about DOGE and how angry people have gotten over DOGE. And I understand a lot of it. It's like, with not just a modicum of sympathy or empathy would really help when you're going to fire people. But because there's none of that, I think people, a lot of people, including independents who normally would probably say, oh, government waste, that's terrible. Yeah, let's do it. I think there's more sympathy for people who have to write an email to say, yeah, I did this last week. I mean, there's some people who say, oh my God, they have to write an email. And then there's other people who go, oh my God, they can't write a fucking email. I mean, you get both sides of it. But I think there's more sympathy for government employees who have to write a simple email than there was for people who turned down the vaccine.
Yes.
Yo, 100%.
100%.
That took a lot of thought, and probably, I mean, in some cases, I'm sure people were very, gave it great thought, and in some cases, study, or they just felt uncomfortable, or they listened to people who they felt probably knew more than they did, and they believed them. People not writing an email. I mean, an email is easy to write.
Yeah. No, it was crazy. And I watched people there, and listeners, I'm sure you heard from them too, that are upstanding members of their community that had legitimate concerns about where this vaccine came from out of nowhere, what the claims were. And, I'm going to sit this one out, like I'm going to see how this plays out. And it was like, monster, how dare you want to kill grandma? And it was like,
Disinformation.
Yeah, and it was
They
like
didn't
that.
want you to be able to go to the hospital. Like, nope, can't. You should be denied medical care if you're not vaccinated.
It's so weird to watch back and see people like Jimmy Kimmel saying some of the things they were saying. And then, you find out eventually that, no, the vaccine doesn't, or the COVID doesn't end when you get vaccinated. And yes, you can go to the hospital. Yes, you can die with the vaccine. I mean, it's just a moving goalpost over time. And I found myself wondering, I wonder when they really knew that. I wonder when they knew that someone with a vaccine got COVID, because I have to believe it was way before they told them.
Way early, super early. Because if you sought out interviews with Dr. Malone, with a handful of doctors that were super well respected. You're talking about Harvard, Stanford, published doctors in their field, experts in their field, who were like, that's not at all how, Dr. Malone, I mean, was one of the inventors of mRNA technology.
But you're not allowed to discuss it. You're not allowed to discuss it. That was the narrative. It's just like the lab leak, which I never, for the life of me, understood. Why does anyone give a shit if you think it was a lab leak? Why would anyone be so violently upset for saying that? It seems so silly to me. And the answer was, it's xenophobic, I guess. Is that the answer?
Yeah. Since when?
Or they funded it.
Yeah, right. But because it's so obvious that, of course, it could have been. I mean, that seems like the most likely thing. But once it wasn't, it was like, I don't know. Is it because Trump said it could be a leak? Is that what made people go so crazy? I never. And
the fact that it took Jon Stewart going on Colbert and going, duh. Duh.
That was so funny. I got to give props to Jon Stewart, and I just watched him. Mark was bugging me yesterday. You got to watch Jon Stewart Monday night. He really was hilarious Monday night on the Daily Show. On a lot of stuff, but DOGE. And then that was so perfect what he did in Colbert. And Colbert is so uptight.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny watching Colbert? It's like hilarious. The world is ending in front of him.
Yeah, you knew
Colbert's mind warped so badly that he couldn't even laugh.
Wasn't he the one that was doing like vaccine dances with those needles and stuff? Wasn't that Colbert that was doing all of that? The vaccine dance.
It was called the vaccine. Yeah, and they were doing the dance like some Broadway bullshit. It reminded me. You look at it and go, okay, where are the ad dollars being spent? And you go, okay, big pharma dominates like 80% of late night TV, like, oh, are you having trouble, getting a hard on anymore? Go to this, ask your doctor about this. That dominates. And so I equated to this. There was a story years ago, and Zott Ford was a sponsor, and there was some turd that worked at Zott. And I love those guys. They've never been anything but awesome to me. but who put a camera in a bathroom stall, like, and was presumably watching people take shits, or I don't know what he was doing. And that doesn't speak to the dealerships, and there's many of them, obviously. But at the time that story came out, that's a prime story that I'm going to talk about. That's hilarious. But they were a sponsor of mine. And so it put me in a position of like, okay, I'm not going to do this story.
No, I mean, you wouldn't. Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
there are people that got in themselves in a few rough spots over like D-Mac. It's like, D-Mac's, he's my friend.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Why am I going to rip him a new ass?
Yeah. Probert. Totally.
Yeah,
there is something that's human nature. And that's the feeling you got with Colbert that night with Jon Stewart on, where he was just like, so what are you, a mega MAGA now? And it's like, no, I'm a person with a fucking brain, you idiot.
So did he say that?
He said something like that. Like he mentioned some hardcore right-wing politician, like, oh, I didn't realize you were so-and-so now.
That is so weird because if it doesn't matter what it is, if I say something, that would be supportive of Trump or something like that, I'll always, not always, but sometimes I get those emails like, oh my God, I thought I was listening to Rush Limbaugh. I say, you must not listen to Rush Limbaugh much because that's all he does.
Drew,
10% of my day.
I got an email from someone and it came up the other day of like, yeah, we really like hearing you with Drew. It's so fun and natural. And an emailer wrote in and the Rush Limbaugh, Drew sounds like Rush Limbaugh when Mark and Trudy are on together. When Mark isn't there, Drew is much more left-leaning and in the middle. When he's with you, he's himself and loose. You swing more left than normal. So it's all what they want to hear anyways. Yeah. Like I'm being accused of being too left-wing.
Drew only talks about The Bachelor. So
that might be that might be because when if you are more leaning a certain way, if you say anything that is not in line with that, then you're a flaming liberal or whatever. Yeah. But
I might take the stance that you had the Michigan rep in Oxford, like, yeah, we're going after gay marriage, and I was like, yeah, I don't give a shit who like gay people want to marry. I guarantee I'll get hit with an email like, oh, when did you turn into Rachel Maddow? And I'm
totally
what? Because I think gay marriage is a good, like, who gives a shit? What do you care?
I was asking this question yesterday. I think there could be speculative answers, but why is Rachel Maddow being paid $25 million a year for doing 1 day a week? I know
it makes sense.
She's working 100 days, 5 days a week during Trump's first 100 days, but she was originally making $30 million for 1 day a week on the second place news network at night. They were ahead of CNN, I guess, but I'm like, I've never heard anyone even suggest there's anything wrong with it. I'm happy when talent makes a lot of money. It just doesn't make any sense in terms of what, her competitors make at Fox or her other workers at MSNBC. And I know her ratings are good. Apparently they say she's ratings Viagra. She's not ratings Viagra versus Fox because Fox beats her. But nonetheless, why is she paid so much money for 1 day a week? What?
I don't know. I have no idea. I won't even pretend to know what their payment structures look like. Like when I found out Greg Gutfeld was making $25 million a year or whatever, I was like, really?
Well, he's number one in his time slot. I mean, you can at least say that.
But he was making that even before that, I think.
Oh,
I could be wrong about that, but I think Gutfeld's been paid a shitload of money for a long time. I don't know.
I don't even think he's that good, personally.
I don't either. I'm sure he's a nice guy. It's the comedic chops that I take issue with. I'm like, yeah, these are like that 5-minute monologue of jokes that he does at the front of his show. It's like, yeah, no, that like if you had Dave Landau doing that, Dave would hit home run after home run doing something like that.
He's just not that funny. I didn't realize he was paid that much. I had no idea. What does Sean Hannity make? Do you know?
Oh, I think he's making tens of millions of dollars a year.
So
and I think Jesse Waters is too.
Do they make more than Maddow does for 1 day?
No, they don't. And you know what? I'm going on, what reports I've seen. I don't know if you're looking it up, Amy, but
yeah, Hannity makes $46 million a year
at Fox.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense to me. I didn't know that. That makes the problem make a little more sense.
The problem with this is when you're looking at those things, because they don't come out and tell you like, he signed a new. Sometimes they do, but you got to be careful because I had Vinny on one day, Vinny Dombrowski. he was coming over, and just like curiosity, I was like, what is Vinny worth? Like he had some top 10 singles in a day that was paying money. And I told him this, so I'm not saying anything out of class, but I told him, I was like, celebrity net worth Vinny Dombrowski, and it came back $60 million.
What?
And Vinny just laughed out loud. It was like, that's fucking hilarious. You know, but so I don't know if it's true that, you know, what these guys are making.
Where'd they get that number? Usually celebrity net worth is somehow in the ballpark, kind of, but there's a lot of people that just get outright wrong.
Yeah, well, that one, I could tell you, I've been to Vinny's house. He does not have $60 million. So, well, I guess no, you could live modestly, but if you wanted and not care about that. But yeah, he laughed at it. And I don't know what it says now. This is years ago that it said that, and you know, but yeah, I have no idea. But those, you know, I don't think Rachel Maddow's ratings are shit right now, though. I think
they're lower.
They were good leading up to the election. Like that's when the war was heated. It's almost like that election happened November 5th, and people just went, "Oh, fuck this," and turned it off on MSNBC. Joy Reid, all of them.
It's the one day a week that the 25 million is probably in line with what she does, because she does well and she's the best person on that station. But it's still, for one day a week, it's just like, what the fuck? What do I not know? What am I missing?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because she would leave if they didn't give her that deal. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is.
What do you make, by the way, of the DOGE thing? You know, it's funny. I watched that Jon Stewart clip too. I kind of get the feeling it's for people that are on the conservative side right now. It's almost like government porn. It's like if you're like, we're all waiting for the news. Like, they spent what on fucking circumcising people in Nepal? Like, holy shit. It's almost like your little brother who's brilliant. He's a brilliant hacker. And he's now announcing to the neighborhood, you're browsing porn history. And everybody's like, oh, he's into what kind of porn? Like, we're all getting off on that. But then it's making the other side fight back. Like, well, you know, and it's like, no, you cannot be for $19 million for a biodiversity conversion in Nepal. You can't tell me you're for that.
Well, what's the name of the Rain City Jacks, which is a jack-off club like the San Francisco Jacks, got $2,000 from an art grant.
Okay, sure.
So that's only 2,000. I mean, it's nothing. But all those things, it's sort of like, I mean, it's so easy. You just throw a dart at anything and you'll find crazy shit like that. If nothing else, hopefully it makes people realize that, oh, I better not, you know, ask for this grant for this stupid thing, or maybe, you know, I'll be made fun of in a couple of years. It just, why can't they slow down and just take their time and, first of all, get it fucking right when they say something?
Yeah.
What was the first big fuck up? $50 million in condoms to somewhere, and that's not true.
In Gaza, it was a different Gaza. No, the big one was
something like that up. That's stupid.
Yeah, totally. It was the 8 million versus 8 billion. They reported 8 billion. And it's terrible. But
take your time. Slow down.
And it's got to be something that's verifiable, checkable on a website that's easy to comprehend for us. Like, but that
wouldn't be that hard. That doesn't. I mean, I just feel like there's such a rush, and I just think this business of just lumping off, you know, 3,000 people from this department, that department, it's like, slow down. Maybe you can actually get the right 3,000 people out of that department or whatever. It's just too fast and too gleeful in terms of. People are always going to have sympathy for people losing their jobs. And they're just some of them, it sounds like, and I don't even know if this is true. It sounds like people are just getting fired and they're out the door and that's it. Bye. And they don't even tell us if they're getting severance or something. Well, they have to be getting severance. If they're not, they should be getting something, but tell us that.
Yeah. Those federal prosecutors were getting severance till, like, I don't know, 6 months, and then, or full pay for 6 months and then severance or something. But the part that I agree with you on all of that, but some of the entitled comment, like the prosecutors on 60 Minutes, it's almost like, you know how this works, right? As a civil servant, like, you're not entitled to this job. You don't, like, how dare they ask you what you do all day? I was telling the story yesterday, Drew, when you were off with Tess, the contract structure that Mark and I were under changed and was like, oh, it's like, oh, if one of the leaders isn't here, you guys shift over and your bonus structure changes and your salaries change. And then that all goes away if and when Drew comes back. But there were times when it was like when management changed and I had meetings with people at Greater Media, like, so what do you do here exactly? And it's like, well, I work on the morning show. I prepare these cuts in the morning. And like, they went around the whole fucking building and it wasn't like offensive.
No. Who's the third baseman for the Red Sox who won't move? Alex Bregman. They just signed him in the third. Is it Devers who says, I will not move. I was told when I signed my 10-year contract, I'd play third base. It's like,
yeah,
dude, move.
Not how this works. Move.
Yeah.
But at least he has a contract.
I know, but he thinks a promise made at the beginning of a 10-year contract has to be held up. No, it doesn't. It changes.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I've seen it's really funny seeing the kind of people interviewed who are quote unquote civil servants.
Right.
A lot of these people, that's bullshit. They have a job with the government. They make an average of $106,000. It's a pretty good job. I just don't say they're civil servants. So I'm supposed to feel worse because they lose their job. Yeah. It's a job. I think you should feel bad that anyone loses their job, but a civil servant, like they're serving me as opposed to, demanding to stay home and be remote, making $120,000 a year. That to me is not a civil servant.
No.
I heard one guy refer to his time as like my tour of duty was like as if he was off to like war and he was like an auditor with the IRS. He's like, my tour of duty was, January 1st through July 31st. And it's like, no, dude, it's not that serious.
And reporters are doing that too. When they're obviously on their side, you see them doing it. Well, thank you for your service. And I'm like, thank you for your service. Like,
that's so stupid. I mean, I know people in the military who, by the way, who should be thanked for their service, but I also know people in the military that never did anything that was of any dangerous nature whatsoever. And I would be embarrassed for them if they were thanked for their service because they got fantastic benefits.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like you worked in the front office at the Pentagon. I'm not thanking you for your service.
Too, and this is, I really don't like knocking anyone in the military, but there's some people went in there who had no thoughts of anything but what they were going to be paid and the benefits they got. That it was a good move for them.
100%. 100%. And there's such a big difference. So like we love to throw military and it sucks to even talk about it because we all know guys that are like dedicated Marines that are fucking bad as shit. And you absolutely thank them for their service. And then, there are guys that are, kind of dopey, dumpy reserve guys that have never left the country. And you're like, thanks for your service, I guess,
these weekend guys that do a weekend a year for 3 years or something. Yeah. And thank you for your service when you got all this benefit, whatever, not the right people to really pick on, but I saw this one girl who's a government employee and she came out of work and they stuck a camera in her face. And I think they thought she was going to say, oh my God, send an email. What are you kidding me? And she walked up to the camera and they go, oh, so what do you think of all this? And she goes, if the president asked me to send him an email, but it took me 5 minutes. It was like, no big deal. The president is ultimately my boss. I had no problem with it. It was like, wow, that was weird. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. No, I look at the DMV and I'm like, I'm not thanking anybody for their service. I'm sorry. I just, do you remember how often? Yeah, but it is. I'm sorry. Like, no. Do you remember all the years? I think it was Clark's brother or sister worked for the government. How much he would bitch off air about every stupid holiday they got and all the dumb shit and they're unfireable. It was a great gig, untouchable. No matter how bad you were at it, there was.
It is rather ironic to see so much sympathy for government workers losing their job when Biden canceled the Keystone Pipeline, we didn't see people running down to interview people, who lost their jobs. Or what about people who wouldn't get vaccinated? There was no, oh my God, this person, he's got 3 kids and he doesn't want to get vaccinated. He's afraid. This is so sad. I mean, you never saw that ever.
And those people were terrorized. How
Yeah,
dare
yeah.
you? How
And they could
dare
have
you?
been vaccinated, and it would have been a little easier. But in time, we learned that maybe they weren't so wrong
Yeah.
at all.
Oh no, they were 100% right. Is more like it.
Yeah.
So it's not that they weren't wrong. They were mostly right. So
Yeah, they were not the pariahs. I mean, there was a lot more to the story and it was an unfolding story. I understand that, but there were a lot of narratives, and some of them were crazy.
Yeah.
And one thing that you can't discuss this, or else you must be called a disinformant or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. By the way,
I got something wildly off the cuff. Did you happen to see the story about Steve Smith Sr.?
the
Yes.
receiver?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What? No, I didn't see it.
Some guy put a tweet out that, Steve Smith Sr.'s banging my wife. What the fuck? And he's got all these texts from Steve Smith Sr. and his wife answering them, talking about how big his dick is. And,
God.
It's so cringy. It's so cringy. God.
And he had a picture that she had sent him, which is she's pretty cute, I have to say. What do you think, by the way, Amy, in terms of his wife versus the other guy's wife? Who was more attractive? Both pictures?
Yeah, I have seen both pictures. Both white, right? They're both white girls.
His wife was really light skinned, but I kind of thought she was black, but very light skinned black. And
I was surprised that the side piece wasn't prettier. I always just kind of feel like if you're gonna blow up your marriage, it should be for someone super hot, and not like someone that was in the Baltimore marching band. She just kind of seemed like a plain Jane to me.
She was a marching raven, which you'd think they would have high standards. There's no talk about the power imbalance within the Raven organization, because isn't Steve Smith still paid by the Ravens, or maybe?
Yeah, and I think he did a stint as the leader of the Ravens band. They were showing him in like the uniform, like he dressed up and was like, that's probably how he met her.
Oh, it was just a horrible mess. And he called Steve Smith and put the tweet out of him calling Steve Smith going, "Hey, well, you're fucking my wife." And he's like, "I'm sorry." And then, word. It was bizarre. So anyway, just to follow up on it, I saw Shannon Sharp and Chad Johnson, who podcast together. They were talking about it, and they were ragging on the guy for ragging on Steve Smith. They're like, you talk your business to your wife. That's the person you can influence. You don't talk to Steve Smith about that. I was like, wow. Okay, I agree with you. Yeah, you should be mad at your wife. But, when you're playing with fire like that, I don't think you're immune from embarrassment.
Right.
No, they're hoping to set the standard because they've probably done that dozens of times themselves.
Didn't Shannon Sharp live stream him having sex like 5 minutes ago?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Hey, why does AB always make these jokes about Shannon Sharp being gay? Does anyone know why he does that?
I don't know. He's just one of those. I don't know if there's.
Did you know that?
Yeah,
I didn't know that he always.
Crazy tweets like, a toilet seat with a dick sticking out of it. This is Shannon Sharp's toilet, or tons of stuff like that. But they're all just horrible gay jokes, and I'm like, what is going on with? Of course, with AB, it could be anything. Did you ever see? Did you see AB's?
Those guys.
Did you ever see AB
know?
And
on Theo Von? No, I didn't see it.
That
was, it's just
talk about the blind leading the blind. Oh my goodness.
They both seem just high as fuck, and AB is saying crazy shit, and Theo Von's agreeing or seeming to agree with a lot of it. It was so, I don't know. I couldn't stop watching it, but at the same time, it just seemed so stupid to me. But Theo does really well. I mean, Theo's killing it.
He's hilarious.
He is killing it. I will say those guys in locker rooms that are absolutely go through training on how to deal with the media, what you can say about the organization, about your teammates, that's real. They have symposiums about this shit that they all go through when they get to the league and dealing with the brand. But those guys off camera, off microphone, will oftentimes talk about like, oh yeah, that fucking guy on the team, and be like, oh yeah, that dude sucks dick for sure. Like I have had those conversations. Don't need to name names, but those dudes know what's going on. So is AB just like not giving a shit anymore, or those guys might absolutely know something about Shannon Sharpie that's not publicly known? You know, I know the Cordell Stewart.
Cordell Stewart. That was another one.
Yeah, Cordell Stewart. I absolutely talked to some guys that played with Cordell that were like, oh, yeah, he's 100%. Yeah. I think we did a gay review, or you wrote a Cordell Stewart skit years ago.
Yeah, for his cologne, I believe it was.
Yeah, well, you did the Troy Aikman cologne. I don't know. Was that another cologne for Cordell?
was it Cordell cologne? Cordell Stewart cologne, was it?
It was Troy.
Cordell's was Slash.
Slash, that's right.
Slash. Okay. What was Troy Aikman's? What was the Troy Aikman? Was it
Troy?
Was that cologne?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Drew, along those lines of the Steve Smith story, have you seen the Mary Kate story that was trending on X?
Okay, I saw this thing about Oprah's interview with them. Is that what you're talking about?
No. Okay, so are you thinking of the twins?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I thought. I'm like, I see Mary Kate trending, and I'm like, one of the twins died.
Like
so
Ashley,
I go,
Mary Kate?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So I go and I click on it, and it's this story that's gone viral of this. She's a hot chick who was dating this dude, and she started fucking the dad, and the guy stayed with her, and she's fucking the dad and the son at the same time. And so it was this whole story that went viral on X yesterday. And I just clicked on it thinking it was going to be about Mary Kate and Ashley. And now I'm like diving into this story of these people I don't even know. And it's like so salacious.
So is there a lot of follow-up on it?
Yes. It's a whole thing. You'll have to go down that rabbit hole.
So it's not that Mary Kate?
It's not.
No.
Okay.
But that Mary Kate was trending because there was and this was on Twitter too. People were talking about the Oprah interview with Ashley and Mary Kate from 20 years ago. Oh, it's awful. Because Oprah's asking about her weight, and I guess she had an eating disorder. And Oprah at some point goes, "What size are y'all?" And so they were both like really embarrassed, like they didn't want to say their size, and like, how could Oprah ask them their size?
Oh wow.
Yeah, so Oprah may have to apologize to them. There was another story along those same stories that I was reading, and was this from Twitter? Yeah, I think it was on Twitter. It was about this guy that saw his wife's Pornhub searches, and he was debating whether to dump her or not. Because searches were like big black cock, big black cock, white woman, just tons of searches. He was like, oh my God, this is terrible. Every search just tore him up.
That is hysterical.
We are living in a new world where we're going to have to get used to this connected world. We're dealing with it now. We're breaking the eggs now and making the omelet about what we learn about your neighbor or your girlfriend or wife, husband, like what people are into. Like we're still like that used to just be able to hide that shit. It was like, no one knew what you were doing.
I've got multiple people in line to come destroy everything electronic that I own if something were to happen to me prematurely. Like, get it out of here. I don't need anyone looking into my shit.
No.
Search histories are such a disaster.
Yeah.
And conversations are so cringy. They're so cringy to read third hand. It's like, you do not want those getting out there.
Well, we're lucky because, people our age did grow up in a time without that. And so there's not a digital record of our footprint of every dumb thing we did at 15 or 18 or 10. Like we pick up at, in our 20s or 30s but you're a little better human being, probably more responsible. Yeah. Like I feel bad. I look at Marshall at 10 years old, and just some of the shit that comes out of his mouth, it's like, oh God. I
think I've talked to you about it before, but I had like a revenge porn experience before revenge porn was revenge porn. And I was a senior in high school, and I was 17, and it was in 2005. And for probably like 10 years, I would Google myself because it was right at the beginning of all of that. And thank the Lord, social media wasn't a thing because it would probably still be out there. But like that was a real fear of mine that was going to be out there forever.
What'd you
if
do?
You Googled my name.
What'd you do?
Yeah.
Well, what's actually really funny about this is my mom does not remember this. She blocked it all out because I think it was so, yeah. I brought it up to her the other day. She's like, gosh, I just don't remember that, Amy. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like it was like a pillar of my growing up. It was very, very disturbing. I was talking to a guy and, you know, I had a party at my house and we were drinking. He took some pictures of me and he sent them out to his friends, like via email, like took it on a digital camera, sent it out to his friends. And of course, you know, you send it out once and it goes around to the entire school. And then somebody printed it out and wrote something on it, put it in the mail and sent it to my mom.
Oh.
And so my mom opens it and I'm in the hospital visiting my niece who was just born. She calls me and she's like, you need to get home. I was like, why? And she's like, I got something in the mail and it was very disturbing. And I knew exactly what it was because I was in the middle of dealing with it. I mean, I was getting bullied. It was horrible.
So who was giving you shit? Because I know, you know, I've heard this many times and I'm sure it absolutely happens. A girl does that. Her picture gets around the school, which of course it's going to happen. And anybody with daughters has to be thinking, oh my God, this is the worst. How can this be happening? How can this really be happening? What is it like when you walk into school and you have an inkling that this may have happened? Who is it? Just guys that bully you? Chicks? Yeah. Is it everyone? Is it just you're a pariah immediately?
Yeah, it was generally yes, and yes. The meanest were the men. And it was a lot of like online stuff, like AOL Instant Messenger was a big thing back then. And it actually happened like right as I was about to graduate. So I didn't have much time left in school when that was happening. So a lot of it was happening online. But someone, like what they wrote on the picture to my mom was mommy's little slut. Then someone messaged me and said, you know, how did your mom...
Who the fuck would send that to your mom? Why would they do that? Isn't it enough?
Yeah. I know.
That's incredible. Do you know who sent it? Did you find out?
I do.
Really?
I know why
did they do that? Was it somebody you didn't get along with?
Yeah, just to be rude. It was actually somebody in a class above me. They had already graduated and didn't like me. And I remember it was a guy. It was a group of friends.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you notice, Amy, like when you open the doors to school and are walking down the hallway, and is it like, why is everybody looking at me? What do you notice at first?
No, because I knew before that it was happening, and so it was just kind of like I just think it was, people didn't really like say anything to me in person. It wasn't, you know, like the movies where everyone's like, oh, look, you know.
Yeah.
We didn't have smartphones at the time, so it was on people's computers. It was like getting to them via email. So it's not like it was like something that was being shown around at school. But yeah, it was a big thing. And I mean, teachers knew about it. They were pulling me aside like, hey, we heard this is going on. Are you okay?
Was that the first time you'd ever heard of that sort of thing happening? Because common.
Yeah,
it's more common now.
Yeah, it was 2005. Yeah. I mean, social media was not really a thing then. We just had AOL Instant Messenger. And I remember my mom being like, do you want to press charges? I mean, I could have very easily, but I just wanted it all to go away. I'm like, hell no. I want this to be done. And my mom at the time, she's like, how do I punish you for this? You know, like, well, I don't know what to do. And I was just like, Mom,
enough.
Yeah, that's exactly. I said, Mom, nothing you can do to me. Like, you would be doing me a favor if you told me I was grounded and I had to stay home and I couldn't do it. Like, you'd be doing me a favor to tell me don't go online and read the shit that
you know what? I wonder if you took 100 high schools in just any area USA, how many out of 100 would have something like that happen? Because I think the answer is 100 out of 100, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, especially today.
Multiple girls at every high school, I would imagine.
I
100%.
remember in 1990, so I graduated in 91 and I'd moved to Farmington Hills. So I was only there for the last couple of years of high school. And when I got there, there was stories about a girl who was, one of these like totally passed out at a party and was attacked by like the whole football team. And it was like, I didn't know if that, and there was like a carrot involved. Like it was a whole thing. And I never knew if that was real. I wasn't there at the time this took place, but that girl apparently absolutely existed, had to move to different schools. And I have since talked to people that are like, I've seen the video. And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And I've never met the girl, but I still know the name. And I would obviously not say it, but I like that was in 91. So that would have been like someone with a handheld VHS camera. Like,
and I was so happy because at the time I was about to go to college. I'm like, peace the fuck out. I don't have to see any of you fuckers anymore. Like I'm done. And I was like, never going back. And then of course my husband is from where I went to high school, but he's older than me. And when we first started hanging out, I had so much paranoia that all of his friends had seen me naked. And Rocky finally told me, he's like, the picture didn't make it to my class. Like it was like the 03, 04, 05, and 06 is who saw it. He was 02. So it never really made its way to 02. Yeah. But like my best friend, she saw it. She's like, I remember getting it when it went around. So it went around to everybody.
Oh yeah. You imagine that age, like a rumor, something salacious. Of course that's going to spread like wildfire.
Yeah. It feels like, it sounds really crass, but it feels like nobody gives a shit about this. That's how I always feel about it, because I'm like, how can this be happening? Like, we put these things in kids' hands when they're like 12 with the internet, with Pornhub, with everything else, with cameras, and they're in no way responsible enough to handle that. And yet, of course, this shit happens, but it just happens. And I've never heard anybody even venture a way to make it stop.
Yeah.
No.
And I think it is so traumatizing that like you just want to get through it. You don't want to like draw attention to it and go to the cops and have it, and then the cops have your phone and they're reading your messages now. It's like, no, I just wanted this to go away.
Well, people go ballistic every time I say this, but I really feel like there's a need for internet police, people who know how to handle revenge porn. And because every time I read a story about this, which is always traumatic, and somebody goes to the local police who don't really know what to do because they're not experts, they don't know how to get it off the internet, they don't really know how to help you. So why don't we have some sort of they don't have to be called. I guess it would be police, but people who deal with just internet crimes. And people that you can actually call when this happens to you, and everyone knows the number. It's like 911.
Yeah. So those divisions do exist.
And the
I've talked to some of them, but I had an internet stalker, like a very hardcore stalker from Twitter that contacted my work, tried to get me fired. They were posting where I lived on the internet. It was very, very disturbing. And well, you voted for Trump. What did you expect was going to happen? Exactly. So I went to the police. I went to my local police, and I was like, "This is happening. They're posting my information online. Like, I'm nervous." I hired a PI. I found out who it was. Ended up getting a restraining order against her. But once I had the restraining order, my police station was going, "Well, we can't do anything because she lives in Texas." And then I'd call her police station and they'd go, "Well, we can't do anything because you live in Michigan." And so it was like, okay, so what good is this?
That's what I mean. Like 1-800 internet crime or some number that everyone knows to call as soon as something happens on the internet that is illegal or fucked up in some hideous way. But it just seems like there's not a lot of thinking about that. I don't know if you have a story like that, Drew, of like, oh, I remember being in high school and in 10th grade, there was a girl that this sort of happened to, or if you went to high school and that story never happened. But I feel like in 91, that would become a Dateline story. Like, you won't believe what happened at this school, where now it's just like another one. Yeah. To your point earlier, like, if you went to 100 schools in America, 100 of them would have this story. Does it get to a point where it's like, you're almost desensitized to it? It's like, oh, there were 30 girls in that graduating class that had their titties were out there. Like, big deal. Like, I know.
Yeah.
I think you do get desensitized. I think even the people it happens to get desensitized because they realize it happened to 8 other people in my class, or it's insane, but it's not. It's still, I mean, horrible to go through anything like that. But when I was in high school, the thing was that I think in everyone's class, somebody got pregnant.
Oh,
And
That's a big deal. Yeah.
year, or it was known that they had an abortion, or that was, I think, the horrible thing that happened when I was in high school.
Yeah,
Mike, when I heard you say the thing about the carrot, I feel like we all had someone at high school where there was a theory going around either about like a carrot, a cucumber, or a frozen hot dog. And I remember the frozen hot dog being the one at my school. Like it went around like this chick. Yours, it sounds like it happened, but it was just like this thing. Like I think she masturbated with a frozen hot dog once.
I could tell you the name of the person in my class that rumor went around on. It makes sense, but that's funny.
The troubling part about that too is if you've been around young people, and we've all been young people, and just the way the development works with human beings, like you are so self-involved that you think that the smallest things are a big deal and everybody's paying attention and thinking about you and gives a shit. And so it's got to be devastating. Like me in high school, that's when you commit suicide. My God.
I can't even fathom something like that happening. And that has happened to a lot of high school guys, a couple in Michigan who got, some chick sent them nude photos. The next thing, that chick is asking them for nudes. And it turns out to be some guy in Nigeria. And then he demands $10,000 and then they kill themselves.
Yeah,
I think he was in Michigan, a dude in Michigan.
Yeah, a couple. I've got your contact list. I got everybody in your family. All your friends are all going to get these pictures if you don't get me $10,000. And one guy, I think he asked for $1,000. One guy's like, I only have $300. He gave him $300. The guy's like, fuck you. And the guy shot himself.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think they prosecuted these people too. I believe they brought them over here and prosecuted them. It was like, what?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's rare. You don't hear about that very often, that they went and
No.
brought someone to justice. That's the problem when you're talking about international, borders and trying to track someone down in Nigeria. Like, how do you even do it? How do you even have the resources to do it?
Probably track the money.
They got somebody to cooperate. I got to run. I got another show to do.
I know you do, Drew. Thank you so much for the time. Thanks, sorry I didn't get to talk about Paul. I'm sure you'll talk about it on your show.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
And the Lions tickets. He's, by the way, like, honestly, for people that don't know, the reason you know Jim Bentley's name is because of that Lions season ticket holder. That's the reason. Like, he was like, hey, I got a buddy that really wants to get into radio. Is there any way you'd talk to him about an internship? And that kid turned out to be Jim Bentley.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Paul is a fantastic hairstylist, and he was in Royal Oak at the time and used to do my hair, and we would just talk Lions football all the time. And he was like, I got this buddy I went to school with, blah, blah, blah. And he introduced me to Jim Bentley, and the rest is history. So there's a little more to that story, but I'm sure you'll get into it on your show. Thank you so much for the time, Drew. What's that?
See, Amy?
Drew.
You can flush it out. You should tell the story.
Yeah.
You got it.
Go ahead. Okay, I will. Thank you, Brandon, for being there, and say hi to Mark and everybody. And let's do this again soon, Drew. It's awesome talking to you.
See you guys.
Pal. See ya. All right, Ames.
Well, wait, why did he lose his season tickets?
Okay, so I've got the story. So let me pull this up. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
For those
now that you gave that background, I remember.
So
yes, yep.
That guy there in the silver hat, not the lion. So if you're looking at the video, I'm sorry, we don't have an engineer here today because we're going early. So I'm just pulling that picture up on my phone. But that is Paul. His name is Pawel, Pawel Jan, but everyone called him Paul. And so there's a story I read today. Superfan Pawel Jan, 25-year season ticket holder, has had his tickets revoked by the club. He had 8 tickets in the corner end zone, row 16, which he would sell in order to upgrade to front row seats. So if you ever see Paul, he goes to every away game. He goes to playoff games, and he has for years. And he's in the front row dressed like that. He's got his dog with him and his fiance, cutest little thing. Paul's like 5'0". He's hilarious. And he's got this adorable girlfriend and this dog that goes, a service dog, in stadiums with him all the time. It's fucking awesome. And He's as legit a Lions football fan as you will ever find. I met him when I was living in Royal Oak. I would go to a salon, Palazola, off Main Street or off Washington, one of those. And he was young. He was early 20s and working there. And the women that were going to those salons in Royal Oak, Paul was the cat's ass. Like he's the, and I just stumbled in there like, I got to get a haircut. And they're like, oh, see Paul. And I'm like, I don't want a dude cutting my hair. They're like, Paul's fucking great. I sit down and Paul is like, so you a football fan? And we hit it off, Lions football. Like, this guy knows X's and O's. He's like, me talking to half fans. Like, it drives me nuts when it's like, okay, I didn't realize you didn't know anything about football. Cool.
Right.
But Paul was one of those, it's like, this dude absolutely knows his shit. And so I would have a blast talking to him. And then I would just walk from my apartment or townhouse over to Palazola and Royal Oak. And hey, there's Paul. And at one point, a lot of the Lions players were living in those condos in that Royal Oak area. Matt Stafford lived there. Dominican Sue lived there. And Matt Stafford wandered in there one day and they're like, Paul, cut your hair. And so Paul got to cut Matt Stafford's hair. And it was like, dude, you're not going to believe this. Fucking Paul also used to be a partier and a drinker. And I was doing those titty bar gigs back in the day. And I was like, dude, you should roll with us. I'll have the limo pick you up and come with us. And I'm like, I got a tab there. They cover it. And they would cover it for like a couple $100. And I go there with Paul to the titty bar and he's gone. He's off somewhere and I'm like, oh, there's a pool table over there. There's darts. There's, I don't know where he is. Well, he was hitting every table in the bar with all the girls and buying them all shots because we had an open tab. And he ran up like at $800 in an hour. And so it became this, they're like, dude, you have like $150, $200 drink tab for yourself and a friend. Like, no, it wasn't meant for this idiot to come in here and fucking buy shots for all of the girls.
Yeah.
And so I think I ended up paying like $400 and they ate for whatever. And we laugh about it now, but that's who that guy is. But he's the one that was like, hey, this buddy of mine wants to get into radio. And I was like, yeah, I'll interview him. And I interviewed, 100 kids over the years. And that turned out to be Jim Bentley. They went to high school together. So, if you've seen him, he's in like M Live always has pictures of him. He's always shown on TV, but he's the real deal. He's a real football fan. I've seen some of these people, they dress up certain ways and I can watch them in the stadium and they love taking pictures with fans. They're not watching the game. They don't give a shit. You see it with the guy dressed as the Grinch every year and he gets off on being in photos with all the kids. And so he's not one of those fans. He's died. He's real deal. So he now is a resident in Philadelphia. This is part of the story. He owns his own salon in Philadelphia now. So that's what he's doing there. Attending games in Detroit, as well as traveling on the road to most away games. It's come at a major cost. He spent $55,000 last year in order to attend most of the team's games. This includes tickets, flights, hotel rooms, food and drink, and merch. By selling the tickets that he's got in Detroit, he's able to offset some of those costs.
Yeah.
He recognizes that by selling the majority of his season tickets that he's in violation of ticket policies. However, he's been doing it for years when the team wasn't very good and the club was begging for people to purchase tickets. NFL teams are starting to scrutinize season ticket holders more closely as the teams look to maximize profits and try to minimize the number of tickets that get put on the secondary market. We aren't sure if there's a perfect way to navigate this, but certainly not allowing for a conversation, blah, blah, blah. This is the article. So Paul wrote this morning, I was like, I saw that headline. I was like, this has to be fake news.
So he got the boot because he was reselling them?
Yeah. Detroit Lions. So this is what Paul wrote this morning. Detroit Lions have revoked my season tickets. Like other pro teams, the Lions have a rule that as a season ticket holder, you can't sell over a certain percentage of your tickets on the secondary market. Did I sell over that number? Yes, I broke the rule. But this isn't new. It's been in place for a while, even during the tough years. Yet it was never enforced then. For anyone who doesn't
Right.
know how I always end up in the first row, I use my extra tickets to help cover the cost of that premium seat to make it to every Lions game. I fly in from Philadelphia, stay in a Detroit hotel, support local coffee shops, restaurants, Ubers, small shops, and even buy Detroit memorabilia. Last year alone, my travel and all that cost me $55,000. I'm as devoted a fan as they come. I'm at the stadium 2 hours early, cheering on our players during warmups. Sure, some say I'm holding up other fans from getting tickets, and I'm not denying that completely. But why wasn't there an issue when I had 8 tickets back when the Lions were averaging only 5 wins in a season? Why revoke my tickets now after I've lost thousands every year? I understand all 3 sides here. My perspective, the Lions business side, and the fans who can't get tickets. My real issue is how this was handled. A few months ago, when I missed a payment, someone from the Lions called me immediately to figure out what happened. They had the time to call when money was owed, but they couldn't call me to discuss why I was forced to sell some extra tickets to offset costs. No conversation, no chance to reach a resolution, just a curt email questioning my integrity. As a business owner, I treat my clients with respect, and I expected the same courtesy. The Lions essentially gave me the middle finger. Greed is a dangerous game to play.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. You're a season ticket
Boy.
holder through work.
I'd be so pissed.
Oh, can you imagine? Like,
I'd be so pissed. And here's the thing that the Lions don't understand is at no point did someone sit down and go, the PR of this is going to be worse than us working this out with this guy. Like, this is not going to be good PR for us. And we're going to take a really big hit when this story inevitably makes it into the news, which it did. And they are going to take a big hit. And I have a feeling that they'll probably offer him his seats back at some point because, like,
I hope so.
And like he said, I have a lot of respect for him to go, I broke the rule. I can see all 3 sides here, but he's absolutely right. Especially seems like he's a level-headed person. You know, he's not going
100%.
like, oh, these motherfuckers, you know, they're just wrong and I'm right and blah, blah, blah. It seems like he's level-headed. So had they gone to him and said, hey, we've noticed this trend on your account. You can't do it anymore. I know we used to allow you to do it when the team sucked, but the team sucked then. So they don't suck now. We want you to still be able to go to the games. You can't do it anymore. And if he then continues to do it, then you get rid of his season tickets. But especially somebody who's been there through I could also see if he's had tickets for like a year and he's doing that. But he's had tickets for 15
I'm sorry, you
years.
cut out there, Amy. Yeah, 25 years.
Oh, 25. If he had only been there a year or two, I could also see like, no, screw you. But you're a loyal member, a loyal ticket member. Those are not cheap. He goes to, people know who he is. It just seems like a really bad way to handle it.
And legit fan. There's a few of them, like Paul from the Hangmen is the guy that waves the skeleton in the end zone. He's been doing that for as long as I remember. You know, we used to hang out with him. These are guys that go there, you know, for the Thanksgiving game, show up at 5 a.m. and are cooking 12 turkeys and feeding everyone around it. Like, they're super fans, super invested. I know this happens with the attitude of these franchises, not to pick on our teams, because I know that this is common around the league, where they're offering you, when, you know, I had season tickets to the Tigers for a minute. They gave them to the morning show, and Mark and I used them. So when I say our season tickets, we weren't, and it was probably, I don't know, $1,000 a year and for games in the outfield. And we would just go, we were in our 20s. We didn't give a shit. Out of work at 10 and go have some beers in the outfield. And, you know, I totally remember the days of like, buy one, get one free, buy one, get 4 free games, buy one ticket and get free food, like anything to get bodies in those seats. And then the Tigers got good.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, we'll take an extra $5 million. And like, they don't give a shit anymore. So those people that have stuck in for decades of garbage Lions franchises, when it's like, oh, you go test drive a car and get free tickets to the Lions game. It's like, these are the guys you're going to fuck with, the ones that, you know what I mean? And almost to your point, okay, yeah, Johnny come lately bought season tickets last season and he's kind of breaking the rules already. Bounce him. But what's going on here is there's probably now a list. right?
I was just going to say that there is a
Yeah.
long list now of people that want tickets who aren't going to
Yeah.
break the rules.
Yeah. So what do you think of that? Like, if you're selling the season tickets,
Also,
so what,
I will say, hang on really quick. I will say, I bet they can sell them to somebody else for more than what they're charging him, because you're only raising somebody's season ticket prices so much. You're not necessarily raising them to what they would be if you were selling them fresh to someone. You know what I mean? Like, because he was probably at a very low price at one point, and you can only slowly increase that cost.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, but I bet they can resell them for much more than what he was paying.
Yeah. Well, I know I was supposed to meet up with him at the the Monday night game, the Niners Lions in San Francisco. I was like, "Hey, are you going to the game?" And he's like, "Fuck yeah." And like, he was coming in 3 days early. He already had a hotel. He was either staying in Big Sur, which is a couple hours south on the coast, or wine country. He was either going to be in Napa. He didn't know yet, but he'd already booked flights and everything. And then there was a family emergency and he had to cancel like day of, like when he was like, my guess is he ate thousands of dollars in whatever booking had already occurred and had to cancel. But I don't know. I mean, I guess there's probably good reason, if it's just like, well, now we've jacked the price. It doesn't mean the season ticket holders don't get the jacked price. They're not grandfathered in at some low price, so why do they give a shit what you do at the end of the day with your ticket? Like, if it's like, I have 8 season tickets, that's got to be common. You can't go to every game. You certainly can't get 7 people to go with you all the time. And you would have given away fucking half the building to have someone buy those seats when you were garbage. Right. So I don't know.
Right. That sucks. I would be so freaking pissed. Oh my God. I'd be so mad.
Especially if they're good for any length of time. Like, good luck getting decent seats for the 49ers or the Cowboys or the Packers, where it could be 50 years before you get an opportunity. Like, you get it. And the fact is, his seats are lower bowl, 16 rows off the field. Like, you're talking about back of the line shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking out of my ass here, but
that's crazy. I would be so mad. And like, I as a season ticket holder, I've been a season ticket holder for like over a decade. I've never seen any communication that's like, hey, we have this rule that you can only resell. In fact, like, if they make it so easy for you to resell them secondarily on a secondary market, like, it's right there within Ticketmaster. You can resell them on the secondary market. Like, there's no like, don't sell your tickets on this. It's like, hey, here's a secondary market if you want to sell them. Honestly, this is news to me that there's a limit on that. I had no idea.
Should we call him really quick?
Sure.
Are you in a hurry?
No.
Let's call him. I don't even know if he'll answer the phone, but I think this should work. I've got this kind of jerry-rigged, but why don't we call him and just see? Because I'm wondering if there's more to the story. You know what I mean? Like, if they were irritated with all the FaceTime he was getting on TV, and it's like,
I would think that would be good for them. They would be like,
you would think,
thanking him.
Let's see if this.
Hello,
Paul.
Yes.
Hey, buddy, it's Mike Walters.
Hey, what up, bro?
How you doing, bud? I'm on the show live right now, and so are you.
All right.
So I didn't want to bombard you. Amy is here as well. We just wrapped the show with Drew, and I've been talking about the Facebook post I saw this morning involving you with season tickets on the Lions, and I figured, fuck it, let's blow in a call to Paul and see if he's around. So, how are you feeling right now, buddy?
I mean, like, listen, I'm as diehard as they come. I'm hurt, but I'm also not arrogant, or I'm not like I get it. Like, I get that there's a rule. Like, I was aware of this rule. I know, I had 76er season tickets too. They had the rule. Like, so like, this rule is there, but like, this rule's been around for years. And
can I ask you a quick question about that? Like, how have they
for
How
me to
have they
go to games costs me
I
a
don't know
lot
if you
of
probably
money.
can't hear
Now,
me.
my point was the Lions. It's just call me. Call us. Don't send an email and say, hey, listen, why were you selling these last 2 years tickets online? We see your track record the last 2 years is different from other years. Like, let's have a conversation about it. Like this is what irritates me actually the most. I have this many tickets now, and I'm actually was willing to let some go because it's honestly a hassle to have this many tickets, 8, and I don't need 8 tickets anymore. Like, I don't. But because of an incident that happened in 2021 with me, or 2022 at a Lions game, I sat row 1. And I actually enjoyed it. So I started buying back in. Well, this year, finally, a friend of mine was willing to sell me his tickets row 1. And, the Lions called when I found out they took my tickets, I called to ask them, will I at least be able to transfer those 2 row 1 tickets in my name? And I was told no. They're like, I can't have season tickets. So it's just like, it's almost like you're giving me the middle finger. And, maybe they're going to call and make it right, or at least have a conversation with me. And that's all I'm asking for. But like, just to kick me to the curb, is wrong. And like, I'm not trying to compare myself, Mike, to like other fans, like, because people live locally. But like, for the city of Detroit, I'm your perfect fan. And this is why. Like, I travel from Philly to the game. I don't stay with my family who live. My parents live in Shelby Township. My sister lives in Rochester. My other sister lives in Milford. I have friends all over. I book a hotel in downtown. I walk the streets of downtown. I go to the coffee shops in downtown during game weekends. I buy memorabilia because I'm the most proudest Detroit person when I come back to Philly. I pour all my money back into the city, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
So it's like they're I have no idea. Listen, I don't want to badmouth them. I love them.
Yeah.
And I
get
also
it.
feel that I fell into like this computer system, right? Like, if you just say, guy, you got red flagged. Who knows who even knows about it? But the problem is like, I'm trying to talk to someone and like, no one will talk to me. Besides, like, my ticket rep is like, listen, I did everything I can for you. I forwarded to leadership. That's all I could do for you. Good luck.
Hold on 1 second, Paul. I want to see if you can hear Amy. I'm sorry, I've got kind of a jerry rig set up here in this studio.
Yeah. I saw it online. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Amy. Ask a question.
Hello.
Let me hear Paul. Can you hear her?
Can you hear me, Paul?
Can you hear her?
I don't think
I can't. No.
Well, Mike, ask him like how he was made aware of that rule, because I had no idea.
She's asking how you were made aware of that rule, because she's a season ticket holder as well, and she wasn't even aware.
So an email did go out. I actually emailed the Lions yesterday asking them where did they send that email. Like the Donald guy, I never got it. It's pretty much the email basically states it's a letter saying that the Lions did an internal investigation of your season tickets, and you broke the rule, and that they're choosing not to renew your season tickets. Like, that's what a few people have gotten. I don't know where it is. I emailed them yesterday asking them where did they send that email, because I don't want to miss any communication with them in case someone reaches out to me. But I haven't heard back. At this point, I just think that I'm going to be ignored.
Well, I look at this, like you're not going to find a better fan than you. I've known you forever. You and I bonded over the Lions.
Yeah.
When I first met you, it was like, holy shit, this hairstylist knows more about the Lions than the fucking beat reporters. That's how we connected. And I see you at every game. The cameras catch you. M Live put your picture everywhere. Like, you didn't just pick a random fan out of the building and go, you broke a rule, get out of here, you. You literally took one of the people that is promoted weekly by the NFL.
Yeah, Mike, they use me, not use me. I'm proud that they use me, but player introductions, they come out, they have clips of me cheering on. Yeah. With Sunday Night Football against the Rams with what's her name? Who sings it? Oh my God, the artist who sings the song. They have me on there, and it's and all that. I'm proud to be that. I'm proud that I cheer and cheer them on, and I still want to going forward, because it's a love for them. It's not I feel like we're letting a little bit of an argument here, and this easily can be settled. And I don't need my 8 tickets, but don't treat me like you're I'm not a ticket broker. I'm not some kind of ticket agency, and that's what this rule is meant for. I'm not a ticket broker,
right?
And you're treating me like I'm a ticket broker, So So
do you think there's anything, because Paul, you've had tickets long enough, and Amy and I were talking, I'm sorry you can't hear her,
yeah,
but we I've had some experience, Drew's had season tickets to everything forever, and we're all aware there's rules. And when there are shitty teams, let's be honest, when the Tigers are garbage,
yeah,
the Lions are winning 3 games a year,
yeah,
those people reach out to you and are begging you
100%, 100%.
and then the second they get good, where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, now there's interest, now there's a wait,
Yeah.
now there's a line. All of a sudden, it's like that attitude of that personal relationship you have with the guy that's like, what can we do to sweeten the pot this year? How about free food
Yeah.
for half the season? Oh my God, it seems
Yep.
like it's almost taken advantage, and that's not a Lions thing. That's league wide. That happens
That's
with
league wise.
Yeah.
The Phillies did that to me in Philadelphia. I'm a Tigers fan, but we had a Phillies package, and when the Phillies traded away Rollins and all these guys, a lot of season tickets left, and all of a sudden, like 3 years later, they're offering free stuff. Hey, come back. We're sorry. It's different. I didn't work here when we worked here. Yeah, I'm sure. I bet you that if something happened to Lions season ticket holders drop, like they would be reaching out and like 8 years from me now, like, hey, listen, we'd love to have you back. We're sorry that happened. Those
Yeah.
people aren't here anymore. We want to make this right. Here's a stupid hot dog, like whatever. But I'm that fan that stuck with them. I had season tickets at 16 years old. I couldn't have them in my name, but at 19 or 20, whatever, they're officially in my name. I got to put them in. And I've been going into that stadium, good, bad, wherever I live, traveling in town, rooting for them. I don't go in drunk at the game. Well, at least not anymore. I go in 2 hours before. I'm in my seat, waving my flag, cheering the players on while they're warming up.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I treat opposing fans good. I don't get into it with opposing fans. I believe that a visiting fan, when they come into your stadium, you should treat them like a guest in your house. Like, I really do believe I'm one of the A+ like fans for the NFL.
Yeah.
And you just pretty much said, see ya. But Mike, I do got to get going though.
Okay.
But you got me in the middle of a haircut here.
I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry.
But I'd be more than happy to talk about when I say it's too, like, dude, like, I love them. And just do it right, but like, have a conversation here
Yeah.
with me, and talk to me. That's all it takes here. And this no rule is like set in stone. You're breaking out. Like what gets me to question? I mean, what questions me is who wants my tickets? Like, I'll tell you, Mike, who wants these tickets?
Yeah.
Because I don't believe they're giving these tickets to like a small person and say, oh, I want tickets. Like, this is what the fans might think. I really think like more corporations and big corporate people want tickets, and
Yeah.
they need to figure out how to get them tickets.
And they're
my guess
is they're lower level tickets.
Yeah.
16 rows off the field. No, it's not lost on me, Paul. And I appreciate the time, but it's, dude, it's very, I don't even know how to say it, but the last thing I want to ask you, and I'll let you go. I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
Is there anything possible? Like people love the pictures. You bring your dog, your fiance. Congratulations, by the way. Like, is there anything, because there's some fans that get ahead of themselves and think they're part of the show a little too much into themselves and cause a little problem. And it's like, oh, this fucking guy again. Can you think of anything where it's like, they kind of were looking for a reason to boot me?
No, I don't think they would be using me on like promo code, like all like the videos and coming out. Like, dude, their PR team just sent me a video, a 4-minute video from me all year long, like cheering on the Lions. They say, hey, we made this little cool clip for you. I'm going to send this to you. They literally last week that someone in the PR team emailed me this, but they email the ticket. There's no communication. Like, I don't even think they really know who they kicked out.
Yeah.
Like right now, like I really don't. Like
I'd be emailing the PR team.
I don't think they don't. And maybe it'll get back to someone's like, oh shit, like we kicked out a diehard. But we'll see. Michael, listen, I'll catch up anytime and hop back on with you to talk.
Yeah, no, you've been great, Paul. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to bother you. See you, buddy.
Of course.
Bye. Sorry, Amy. That sucks.
No, that's okay.
Something for A-Rod. I really wanted you to talk to him there. He's probably right that they don't even realize.
Yeah, I would be emailing that PR team 100%.
100%.
Like, hey, PR, guess what's not going to be good PR for you? This.
And I know when you have season tickets and you go to stuff, and maybe you've experienced this, Amy, they kind of reference this in Fever Pitch, the Drew Barrymore movie with Jimmy Fallon, that those season ticket holders and the surrounding seats become very close. They become almost like family members, living and dying by the team. Like, those are the people you cannot afford to lose.
Right.
Those are the ones that are going to keep buying when you do suck, which
Yep.
let's be honest, the Lions did for many, many years. Like those fans around him that dress up and show up. I can think of people right now that I see them post pictures with Paul every week.
Yeah.
And they know each other. Those fans, my guess, are waking up this morning hearing this news and are going to go, are you shitting me right now? That's going to be felt like a brother getting wronged.
Yeah. Yeah. I have half a mind to email my ticket rep about it. Like, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah. I hope people
I'll tweet at the Lions.
Dude, you have enough followers on Twitter that could actually get their attention. It
yeah, although I don't know if it's great PR for them to be responding to MAGA Barbie.
True. But writing an email though, hey, send them this clip.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know. We'll go out on that. But I'm glad he answered the phone and took a couple minutes. That was really cool. And I feel bad. Like there are season ticket holders I've known over the years that can't wait to get sloppy drunk in the stands and yell and scream and fuck with other fans. And it's like, oh, that guy got the boot. Yeah, I don't blame him. For those that don't know, Paul, used to drink. He wasn't crazy, but he, a few years ago, decided I'm done. I'm not drinking anymore. And has kind of documented his journey with that. And it's been a few years of sobriety for him. He is not the loudmouth, asshole, drunken, stupid fan at stands. So that's why I asked him that question. Like, is there anything like,
Yeah, right.
Was there something else? Yeah. Is there something else? And, it doesn't surprise me that he goes, no, that's the dude I've known for many years. Is exactly what he portrayed there. But
I just feel like this is some obscure rule that's listed like deep in the small print somewhere on our season tickets, and that it's not communicated with us until you break it.
Yeah. And the other thing is, when you talk about equal justice, damn well, there's no question it happens all the time that people, hey, I got into a pinch, and you can sell those tickets with a hot team and supplement your income. Like that's going on everywhere.
Yeah.
Don't act like that's a rule that everybody's not breaking.
Yeah. And I gave them to a client one time, and my client sold them because he didn't end up going. Like, he's like, I just ended up selling them. I'm like, okay, whatever. But and
for them right now, they're in the window of like, you can do that. Like last minute for the Lions, you can get hundreds of dollars probably for a ticket.
Yeah.
Where last minute, like, you could never do that before. It was like, oh, last minute you're sticking me with tickets and I can't go now. What do you give them away?
Yeah. And the teams don't want opposing fans buying them. I think that's probably what it is. But still, I mean, what the fuck? It just seems like a weird rule.
All right. We've gone late, but let's wrap up with this. How did you feel with Drew?
Oh, it was good.
Were you happy?
Yeah, for sure. It was interesting hearing what stuck out to him is, I mean, it sounds like on balance, I mean, he knows the case and he knows what went on. I mean, he subscribes more weight to certain things than I do, but everybody's different. It's just interesting. And it'll be interesting for the second trial. Sorry if my mic was fucked up a little bit. I saw somebody made a comment, but I had made an adjustment because I couldn't hear Drew at first. But then I didn't turn it back, so I think I was coming in too hot. But I ended up halfway through.
Drew, there was something there with his setup and mic. I hope it wasn't bothering. I didn't see the chats, but I hope it was okay.
But no, it was good.
I think it was. He's fun. He's fun. Yeah. So I hope you all enjoyed it. And tomorrow I'm excited. We'll have Dave Landau coming to us live from Vegas.
3:00?
Yeah, 3:00 your time.
Okay.
I believe that's right. So I'm trying to keep Mountain West.
Probably won't remember, but I will do my best.
Yeah, you stoners are all the same. I'll communicate with you in the morning. We'll
okay.
Get on point. But have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much.
You too.
Yeah, we'll see you. See y'all tomorrow. Send an email. Tell us what you thought. Walters@DetroitCast.com, and we'll leave it at that. See you guys.